Okay, this is an informative speech for COMM 231. Many today disregard natural law as if obsolete due to the fact that it originates in antiquity. The truth is that more often than not, themes that are rooted in antiquity are commonly the most useful maxims upon which we as a people should be leaning. There is a reason that some maxims are deemed transcendent over time and others fade. Natural law certainly qualifies to belong to the former. Truths from natural law principles of morality certainly appear so frequently in modern lawmaking that they are often passed off as man-inspired instead of divinely ordained. Natural law is intended by God to guide the moral ordering of society, and it always reigns supreme over human law. Because natural law is immensely prevalent in modern lawmaking, let us delve into the finer points of the topic. First, we look to the divine ordinance of natural law, namely how it is intended by God to guide the moral ordering of society. In the Hebrew Bible, in the book of Jeremiah, the text reads, quote, "I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to give you hope and a future." This verse articulates that the credited creator of natural law has a master plan, which involves each human differently. Because God created both humans and natural law, it can be deduced that humans are divinely intended to exist under natural law and to adhere to it. Those who subscribe to this viewpoint also generally believe in the great chain of being, a concept of hierarchy thought up by many classical minds and described in Metaphysics and Nicomachean Ethics, both works by Aristotle. This hierarchy places God at the top, followed by angels as the next reigning supreme authority, followed by humans, animals, plants, and eventually minerals. In the camp opposite those who subscribe to those two beliefs are those who reject natural law and live governed by personal will and means. In Michael Pakaluk's Aristotle, Natural Law, and the Founders, written in 2011, the author makes a distinction about those who are governed by moral law, saying they are, as Aristotle says, governed by God rather than by men. Quote, "whilst those who subjected themselves to the will of a man were governed by a beast." In this way, the author distinguishes the two camps. Because the creator of natural law knew that man cannot easily govern alone, he set out leaders skilled in proper guidance. In Romans 13, the Bible says, quote, "there is no authority except that which God has established. For those in authority are God's servants sent for your good. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience." Again, this point is emphasized in Hebrews, saying, quote, "obey those who rule over you, and be submissive, for they watch out for your souls." The most prevalent things both these instances have in common are that they both instruct the people to submit to the governing authorities, and that they both state that this obedience should be enacted because those ruling are there to do good and know the best way in which to accomplish that. Due to the fact that natural law was set down by God to create order in society, we can assume that the opposite is also true. Without natural law, human society would function under a system of chaotic anarchy. The main way in which humans are able to avoid anarchy and an oppressive set of laws is to follow the universal rule, the categorical imperative. In Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals, written by Immanuel Kant in 1785, the author lays out the foundation of ethics as we know it. Included in this work is Kant's categorical imperative, which states that we as humans should, quote, "act as you would want all other humans to act towards all other humans. Act according to the maxim that you would want all other rational beings to follow, as if it were a universal law." In simpler terms, the golden rule, but it applies to all people in all situations. This imperative relates itself to the supreme principle of morality, the justification of humans having any obligation towards one another concerning interpersonal treatment. The difference between Kant's views on natural law and Aristotle's views is that the categorical imperative is deontological, while the great chain of being is strictly ontological, meaning that Kant taught that the morality of an action should be based on whether the action is right or wrong, while Aristotle made the judgment call that it should be based on the consequences of the action. Now that we have established that God has a plan for humans to follow certain leaders, we move to discuss the topic of supremacy. Because natural law is divinely ordained, it therefore should be seen as a paramount system of rules. According to Cicero in his writings in De Re Publica, natural law is, quote, "right reason in agreement with nature," and it is something universal, unchanging, and everlasting. Cicero goes on to say that natural law applies to all people in all situations, and, quote, we cannot escape its obligations. This philosopher maintains that God is the author of natural law, and that those who deny natural law suffer the guilt that their own consciences will lay on them. Aristotle was of the opinion that, quote, "law which is common to everyone is that which accords with nature," and that this common law lives eternally, as he writes in Politics in the 4th century BC. He also maintains that, quote, "no one knows how it arose, and that it never changes." Aristotle states that if the civil law contradicts something, then one should consider natural law and its application to that exact same thing. Paul speaks of natural law as a governing force, saying in Romans 2 that, quote, "all who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law, and all who sin under the law will then be judged by the law." He also maintains that the requirements of natural law are written in our hearts, quote, with our consciences to bear witness. Hobbes maintains that natural law is, quote, recognized as a type of higher law that spells out universal truths for the moral ordering of society based on a rational understanding of human nature. This according to the 2011 publication, Thomas Hobbes From Classical Natural Law to Modern Natural Rights, written by Robert P. Krynak. Hobbes also teaches that in his publication Leviathan, that natural law is a higher moral law that gives citizens a standard for determining if the written laws of any nations are just or unjust, meaning that natural law is a golden standard against which all other systems can be measured. Anytime state laws and federal laws come into conflict, federal laws win out because they hold more weight. Similarly, in instances where moral laws and human laws don't agree, natural law reigns supreme regardless of the repercussions. The prophet Jeremiah, Aristotle, Pakaluk, Paul, Kant, Cicero, Hobbes, Krynak, in the past few minutes, you as a listener have gained more knowledge than humans have been able to gather in several centuries of philosophizing. We established that natural law is divinely ordained, that without natural law, chaos would arise, that certain leaders were sent to help humans follow God's plan, and that natural law reigns supreme over human law. You should also recall from the beginning the statement that, quote, themes which are rooted in antiquity are commonly the most useful maxims. This statement should ring even more true with your new knowledge of natural law. My charge to you as an audience member is to change your thinking, your actions, and your peers. Change your thinking to be that of someone who knows that they are to follow a call of a higher moral guidebook. Change your actions to be those of someone who acts, quote, according to the maxim that they would want all other rational people to follow. And finally, change the hearts and minds of your peers by setting an example worthy of all those classical thinkers whose shoulders you just stood on. It is in this that we will see a return to the moral world. Thank you.